Voters in Cook County, Illinois head to the polls next week, but a new program is already sparking outrage, allowing inmates to vote from behind bars. The new voting booth set up inside the jail sparking the question, do inmates really have the right to vote, or are Democrats getting desperate? Here now to debate is Fox News political analyst Gianno Caldwell and attorney and contributor at The Hill, Michael Starr Hopkins. Thank you both for joining us this morning. Gianno, I got to start with you. You're from Chicago. How does this make you feel?
Absolutely. You know, this is interesting. I worked in state government prior to leaving and moving over to D.C., and I can tell you that there's a lot that goes on in Illinois, and when there comes to laws being passed, there's always a political calculus to it. Interestingly enough, and what you don't really see is the fact that a number of elected officials run these particular jails. So look at Cook County as an example, as the largest prison system in Illinois is ran by a guy named Sheriff Dart. This is an elected official. No one has thought about, apparently, the fact that this could be an area in which they can manipulate inmates to make a certain decision in favor of a candidate either Sheriff Dart supports or him himself. There's, generally speaking, about 7,000 inmates in that prison at any given time. Last go around, there was about 1,200 who had the eligibility to vote, and obviously that number will increase now that this program is in place. And this should be a serious consideration, considering there's so much corruption that goes on in Illinois, specifically Cook County.
Michael, you chuckled a couple times here. What's your response?
Listen, I mean, these are people who are in jail, not in prison. So people in jail have the presumption of innocence. They're still afforded their right to vote. And just because they're incarcerated doesn't mean they shouldn't be allowed to perform their right to vote. I think this is a basic American tenet.
There are two states where you never lose the right to vote, Maine and Vermont. That felons never lose their right to vote while they are incarcerated. And then there are 14 states that restore voting rights after a release. As far as the other states go, it's kind of a gray area. So what do you think should be done about this, Gianno?
Well, I'm all in favor of inmates having the right to vote post-release. I think that's what we should be doing. They've obviously served their time. I think there should be more clear rules on what the voting procedures are for those who are in jail, those who are being held, and for whatever reason. Certainly, we realize that when you go into jail, it is a punishment, so you lose certain rights. I'm not sure or familiar with any data that suggests that somebody's greatest consideration while they're in jail is who they're going to vote for governor, but certainly...
Well, I just want to remind you that people who are in jail aren't necessarily guilty, that's where you go while you're waiting trial.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I would never disagree with you on that, Michael. Absolutely not. I think you and I have that understanding.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, the position that I just took, which is in my home state of Illinois, where I know corruption exists and I know elected officials would be enforcing or even educating inmates on the right to vote. So I can see there being some manipulation being there. So when providing that calculus into the analysis, I think that there's a different conclusion that many people would draw when it comes to folks voting in jail.
Michael, last word. Do you think that this is about some form of manipulation?
No, I think this is making sure that everyone can vote. But I think that this shows exactly why we need the Voting Rights Act to be restored. That's something that Congress has had an opportunity to do, and I hope in the next year or so we do that.
Michael Starr Hopkins, Gianno Caldwell, thank you both for joining us.